Greetings, I'm Forrest Woolman here at the Electric Bike Report, and today I'm reviewing with you the Lectric XPedition, Lectric's first e-bike that's exclusively meant to be a cargo bike. With its solid sturdy frame and trademark fat 20-inch tires, this bike has shown us how it can take care of business. This bike is ideal if you have small kids you need to commute, groceries to bring home, or if you have a job making deliveries. The XPedition is comfortable for folks who are tall and short, and it's super easy to ride. Now this bike has a longer frame and seems bigger than other electric models, but this is no snail. This bike can really get up and go. Of all electric bikes we've tested, this XPedition model climbs hills better than the rest. And it stops well too, which we will go over the details with you shortly on our performance test result. So one thing I really like about this bike is how, in true electric fashion of producing e-bikes people can afford, they're selling this cargo bike at an astonishingly low price, considering it's a cargo bike. So yeah, this new bike is sure to be a hit. Now we had time to ride this e-bike a lot and do our performance tests and really get to know the ins and outs of this bike. So stay tuned to learn more about the Lectric XPedition. So before I begin, please take a moment to hit the subscribe button and notification bell on your screen. Doing so helps support the channel and enables us to bring in more bikes to test and review, and will let you know of any future videos we post featuring more e-bike content you will like. Now the XPedition is Lectric's answer to people who want an e-bike for taking their kids to school, picking up groceries, making local deliveries for work, and even packing up tent and supplies for a weekend camping trip. This bike offers so much, leaving so many choices to your imagination. Lectric e-bike company has become one of the leading US e-bike companies, and you've probably seen folks riding Lectrics in your community. Part of the growth has to do with the convenience of their folding frame, which is a must for people who have limited storage space or who need to fold up the bike for transporting. Lectric is also known for building reliable e-bikes that meet people's riding needs. And on top of that, they are perhaps best known for selling their bikes at the most attractive price for whichever style you're looking at. From their lightweight XP Lite to the Jack of all trades XP 3.0, Lectric is typically the most affordable e-bike worth recommending. Where else will you find a cargo bike like this with dual batteries for what's currently going for around $1,700? Lectric offers a host of nifty accessories too that you can customize your bike to really meet your needs. The rear rack can have a long padded seat mounted to it for junior passengers, or you can mount a child bike seat to the rack. You can also add a seat with the back and handrails. You can also add 2 pannier baskets to carry groceries and other goodies. Now, something great about this bike compared to others is it's rated to carry up to 450 pounds. Counting the rider and his or her passenger and cargo. That rating makes the XPedition a true heavy-duty e-bike that will really prompt you to wonder why even bother driving a car to do the many things this bike can do for you. Now, it's one thing to build a frame to withstand 450 pounds, but if the motor isn't up to the challenge to help you move it, then what good is the payload capacity? Fortunately, Lectric thought this through, as their custom-tuned motor is unique to this model. It represents the most powerful electric motor to date, as you'll soon see in our detailed testing. Now, smaller riders might think that an e-bike like this might be too much to handle, but the frame seat and handlebar layout makes this bike adjustable and able to cater to riders as short as 4'10" and as tall as 6'5". There's a lot of talk about this bike, so next up I'll go over the key specs on the Lectric XPedition electric cargo bike. Now this is a Class 2 e-bike, meaning it will travel up to 20 miles per hour via pedal assist or twist grip throttle on the right side of the handlebar. Speed is provided by the 750 watt Bafang rear hub motor. It produces up to 85 Newton meters of torque, and that's really helpful if you're carrying cargo from a stop or going uphill. The battery, it's 14 amp hour, that's 672 watt hours, and it's rated for high and low temperatures. You can also get an optional second 14 amp hour battery on this bike. Both batteries can be removed for charging, and it's also easier to transport removing the batteries because each one weighs 8 pounds. This bike has a 7-speed drivetrain. It's a Shimano Tourney shifter and 11/28 tooth cassette and a 54 tooth chainring. Now the gearing works really well on this bike with almost no ghost pedaling in top gear and top speed. The brakes are Zoom hydraulic disc brakes, twin piston calipers and 180mm rotors, and they do a good job of stopping this bike. And speaking of safety, keeping this bike safely on the pavement are the 20-inch by 3-inch street tread tires. They help the bike handle really well, and they help absorb some of the bounce you get riding your cargo over bumps. Now, since this is a cargo bike, there is no suspension. The forks are rigid, and the rear is rigid as well. But no worries, because the frame's rigidity handles the weight of the rider and the cargo really well. The handlebar and grips make this bike comfortable to control, like it's a smaller bike than it really is. And as I mentioned before, you can make some simple adjustments between the seat tube, the saddle rail, and the stem to size almost any size rider, tall or short. Now, talking about how this bike is easy to adjust to the rider's side, this bike is super simple to adjust for portability. Along with the folding stem and folding frame, this bike has quick release pedals, making it easier for you to transport this bike in a van or a large SUV. The LCD display is one of the easiest to adjust your PAS levels and is one of the clearest monocolor screens to see in broad daylight. Now the carrying capacity, like I said before, is amazing on this bike. You can carry up to 35 pounds on the front rack. We don't have this here, but you can get that. And 330 pounds total between the rider and cargo on the back, or passenger on the back. You can also accommodate small passengers, like you can get the Orbiter, the Thule Yep Maxi seat, the Barrow Bell, or you can do this +1 chair. Also, you can add cargo panniers for your groceries or other essential items. So that covers most of the key specs, and what I may have not covered here, we'll cover on the EBR website with the link below. But now let's dive into our testing data to show you how the motor, battery, and brakes all perform. So e-bikes like the Lectric XPedition can travel at a pretty fast speed, and we like to make sure the braking is up to the task of stopping the rider in a hurry when needed. This is why we perform a brake test. Now here at EBR, we bring bikes up to 20 miles per hour before hitting the brakes, and then we measure the distance it takes to stop. We try to brake as quickly as we can while also maintaining control of the bike in a fashion similar to how the average rider would. We do this multiple times, and then we take an average of the stopping distance. The Zoom brakes stop this bike really well, as indicated by the 18-foot 5-inch stopping distance that this bike averaged. It helps that this bike uses hydraulic disc system with twin piston calipers and 180mm rotors. Considering how heavy this bike is, 75 pounds and more when loaded up, you want all the stopping power you can get. This bike was carrying 230 pounds on our test, which is pretty standard, but can carry another 220 pounds for a total of 450 pounds. That's really amazing. Now, in order to gain a better sense of motor engagement, we put all the bikes we review on a circuit test. Now, the course is a 1-mile loop with a small 30-foot climb. We do multiple laps on this course, starting with a lap with no motor assistance, then one in each level of the pedal assistance, in this case, PAS 1 to 5. With this, we can see the speed profile of the bike and get a sense of how well the motor engages with the rider. Displaying on the screen are the results of how well this bike performed. Now, set up as a Class 2 e-bike, our XPedition accelerated really well from a dead stop and continued accelerating well up to the mid-range at about 15 to 16 miles per hour. The power leveled off once I clicked into PAS 4 and 5, with there being only a slight increase in speed at those levels. The important takeaway from the circuit test is that this bike rides fine if you're using PAS 3 for most of your cruising speed. PAS 4 and 5 best used for speeding up briefly, like when passing pedestrians, and slow bikes. I found using PAS3 most of the time is also good because I don't want to use up the battery as quickly. That's good though, because that's about as fast as you want to go on a cargo bike also. With increased weight comes increased distance. It takes the bike to stop. And if you're traveling faster, that means you need even more room to stop. Now, after all, you want to stay safe, and you want your bike and cargo to stay safe. And most of all, you want any child or children that are riding with you to be safe as well. Now, two of the most common questions we get about a specific e-bike is, how far does it go? And how well does it do on hills? I'll cover the hill climbing question in a few minutes and talk about the bike's battery range right now. Now, to determine how far an e-bike can go using power from the battery, we perform two separate range tests. In the first test, we used the highest pedal assistance setting, PAS5 on this bike. And in the second, we used the lowest assistance setting, in this case was PAS1. And it establishes a real world value on how far this e-bike will take you. In the PAS1 test, we ran this test using just one battery, and the results were amazing. This cargo bike traveled 60.6 miles before the battery ran out of juice. Now, the model we're sent for testing includes the dual battery setup, and getting a dual battery cargo bike for several $100s below $2,000 mark, that's incredible. For the value alone, we recommend going with the two battery route for sure if you buy this bike. But since the base model comes with just one, we did the test with just one battery and used the safe assumption that you'd just be able to nearly double your results with two batteries, which would be 120 miles. Amazing. There are a few e-bikes that can pull off going that far with one battery, and this Lectric XPedition is a cargo bike. Woo, that's amazing. So riding the maximum PAS range test, I used PAS5 the whole time and got this bike with only one battery to go as far as 33.32 miles. Now just imagine, if I had that second battery, I would have gone close to 65 miles. And that's with the motor maxed out at 20 miles per hour. Wow. Now, determining an e-bike's battery range involves variables like rider weight, road conditions, and weather. It's an inexact science of sorts. Lectric claims in their advertising that riders should expect to go up to 75 miles on one battery and 150 miles on two. Since we did a fair amount of pedaling in our test, we figured it's safer to say this bike will go about 60 miles on one battery and 120 miles on two, like I mentioned before. Now, if you're in a hurry and you need to use PAS5 the entire ride, like I did for this test, then we think it's safe to say this bike will probably take you up to 35 miles. And again, it's a cargo bike. That's amazing. Now, something we'd like to see Lectric change is replacing the bar-based readout on the display gauge. We'd like a percentage display and better on letting us have a more accurate estimate as to how much remaining battery power is. E-bikes tend to use up battery power quicker also as the level drops, and a percent readout would benefit riders more. But either way, the range this bike gets is incredible. And considering how inexpensive the price is to buy a two battery XPedition e-bike, we all agree that it's definitely worth it. After all, you're already getting a great cargo bike for a super low price. Why not get the second battery and really enjoy the extraordinary option of being able to ride longer? So now back to the other common question we get about e-bikes. How well does it do on hills? We were curious to see how the XPedition's 750 watt motor climbs steep hills, and we were eager to see with our hill test. We had high expectations for this. The EBR team spoke to one of the founders of Lectric, Levi Conlau, who explained how much effort went into the XPedition to produce their best performing motor to date. So we are eager to get it out and test it on our test hill. Our hill climb test really pushes our test bikes to the limits, using one of the highest hills around, southern Utah's own Hellhole Trail. This trail is 1/3 of a mile long and has a grade averaging 12%. The hill climb is probably longer and steeper than any hill that's regularly faced by the average commuter. But this test really helps answer the question about an e-bike's climbing ability. We do this test in two parts. The first is using the throttle only with no pedaling. And the second involves basic pedaling and using the highest PAS level, in this case PAS 5. In the throttle test only, the time was 1 minute 23 seconds, average speed of 13.1 miles per hour. And in the pedaling test using PAS 5, time was a little bit quicker, minute 10 seconds and average speed of 15.5 miles per hour. Now, Lectric advertises that the XPedition is great at climbing hills, and since they were a little off in their range estimate compared to our results, we had reason to be a little bit skeptical. But you know what? They were right. When they said this bike is a real hill climber, they were right. As I rode this bike up the course, there's a specific part of the trail where you will know if the bike is going to make it or not. But when I hit that point on the throttle test, I said to myself, man, this bike's going to definitely make it. Now, if a bike is only going to pass one part of the hill test, it's the throttle test that gets them. That's the one that a lot of bikes fail. When I did the PAS 5 test on the next run, the XPedition made it up no problem. In fact, the battery gauge was still in full when I completed the second test. So this bike gets an A on our hill test. Now, Lectric spoke highly about this motor, and they absolutely delivered. This was our best time on the hill from an electric bike to date, and that's from a cargo bike. Now, you'll be able to tow kids, cargo, and anything with ease, no matter what hill stands in your way, and we're really happy with that. So, given this bike's cargo capacity, motor power output, strong stopping ability, hill climbing ability, sturdy build, and smart appearance, this bike has a lot going for it. We were glad to see the XPedition perform so well on our tests, and we had a feeling this bike would do well since Lectric bikes tend to hold their own in our tests. Lectric has introduced the world to some pretty keen portable folding e-bikes, so we were glad to confirm that they now have a really good portable folding cargo e-bike joining their ranks. And best of all, it's not priced like you're buying two of Lectric's other bikes. Not only can you do a lot with this bike, but you can do it without spending as much money as you maybe thought you'd pay for. After all, this bike is crazy affordable for what you're getting. Now, aside from the high-speed wobble we found with the folding stem, we couldn't find much to complain about with this bike. We do feel that buyers who get the second battery should also receive a second charger. That way they can have the bike ready to ride in 6 hours, not 12, when they're only using one charger. But so all in all, there are so many positives we discovered with this bike that we agree that this is one awesome cargo bike. Now, looking at the vast array of accessories to help you customize your XPedition, this bike can really add value to your transportation needs. If you need to transport kids, there are padded seats and footboards, handrails to keep them safe, secure, and comfortable. If you need panniers or racks to store items for delivery, they've got you covered on that too. Now, if you want to use this e-bike on your grand XPedition outdoors somewhere, like the name implies, this is your XPedition e-bike. So thanks for watching our review of the Lectric XPedition. I hope you found this video helpful. If so, please click like. And if you're not currently a subscriber to our channel, please subscribe. It really helps us get the word out to others about e-bikes. And to check out current pricing for this e-bike, there's a check best price link to click below. Also, be sure to click the link to our in-depth written review, written by me. It has the details I mentioned today, plus a lot of other important stuff. So that's it for now. I'm Forrest Woolman with the Lectric Bike Report. Thanks for watching. I look forward to seeing you out there, hopefully on the bike trail sometime. And please, please remember, keep your hands on the bar, your feet on the pedals, and your eyes on the road. And I'll see you next time on the Lectric Bike Report.